Hello students, welcome to yet another English class. So in the previous class we began the discussion of forming question tags, and we have seen there are three forms, that is positive to negative and negative to positive, and the third one is imperative sentence, that is to frame question tag to imperative sentences or statements. But in the last class we discussed only the first form, which is that is positive to negative, which means if the statement is positive then the tag must be negative. So today let's look at some more example. So before that, as you all know that, so this is the time to learn the meaning of new word that I gave you in the previous class. So what was that? The word admire. So what do you mean by admire? Admire is to have a high opinion of, or respect or esteem of, or having great respect towards someone. For instance, you can say that I greatly admire his talent. You respect him for his talent. Or he is greatly admired by the entire world. You can say that Modi ji is greatly admired by the entire world. So in that way we can use the word admire. So now let's get back to our class. So let's recall a few things that we discussed yesterday related to question tag. So what are the things that we need to keep in our mind while framing question tags? The first one, the structure. So what is the structure here? We frame question tag by using helping verbs or auxiliary verb, and then personal pronouns. I hope you remember the personal pronouns. Personal pronouns. So what we have to do? When there is a helping verb be form and have form or modal verbs. When there are these verbs in the given sentences, then what we have to do? We have to take the same verbs, that is be or have or modal verbs, we have to take the same verbs here, and then we have to add NT to make the sentence or the tag negative. So we learned that in the previous class. So if there is no helping verb in a given sentence, then we have to write the right form of do. So again you know that how we need to apply do forms according to the verb. Right, I hope you know that. So now, as I said yesterday, we discussed only the sentences which had helping verbs in it. Right, so that is very simple to add question tag if you find or if there is helping verbs. But now I have written a few sentences here on the board, and there are no helping verbs in these sentences. Can you find any helping verbs here? No. So when there is no helping verbs, what we have to do? We have to write the right form of do. That is very simple again. And one more thing, you should also remember the words which make the sentence negative. So we'll discuss that later when we discuss negative to positive. So now these are positive statements. Okay, because you don't find any negative words here. You can read them. Look at the first sentence here. The goddess stood before me. You have to analyze the sentence first. In the examination, when you find a question, that is question tag or the statement, so you have to read them and then analyze if or make sure if there are any helping verb, if there is any helping verb in it. So if there is no helping verb, then you have to add the right form of do. So before adding the do, you have to analyze the verb there, or you have to identify the verb there. So if the verb is in the past tense, then it takes did. If the verb is the third person, which means it has yes, and then it takes does, or if it is plural, then it takes do. Do that. So now here look at this sentence. The goddess stood before me. So now the verb here is stood, and there is no helping verb. So there is no be form or have form or modal verbs there. So in that case we have to write the right form of do. Put a comma here at the end of the statement, and now the goddess stood before me. So now stood is the verb here. So which is the present tense of stood? That is stand. Right. So now stood is past tense, which means we have to write did here. And then what we have to do? This is a positive sentence. Now we have to make the tag negative by adding NT, N apostrophe T. So the goddess stood before me. Didn't, you cannot write the goddess. What did I say? You are supposed to write the personal pronouns. So here the goddesses, that indicates, or the pronoun which suits here, suits the subject, that is she. So it becomes the goddess stood before me, didn't she? Question mark. Didn't she? This is how we frame question tag using two verbs. Now Karan, look at the next or the second statement. Karan plays the guitar. Now again, there is no helping verb in the given sentence, and look at the verb here, that is plays. So now whenever we find yes added to the main or action verb, then it takes does. We have to write does. Does. And then now look at the subject here. So subject is Karan, right, a boy. So the pronoun, personal pronoun which is used for Karan or for a boy, then it is he, right. So now does, we have to make it negative. How do we make it negative? By adding NT. Doesn't he? Question mark. Doesn't he? And now look at the third sentence. You want this book. Put a comma. Look at the verb here. Want. It is not wants, not wanted, but only want. So in that case we have to write do. And how do we make it negative? Don't. Don't. Don't you. You cannot change this because this is a personal pronoun. So here it doesn't change. Only proper nouns change. Okay. So now it is you. So don't you. Don't you. Now look at the next statement. He cooks fantastic meals. Again, look at the verb here, that is cooks. Now, which is the right do form for cooks? This verb, that is does. And add NT. Doesn't he? Doesn't he? Doesn't he? And now, Krishna knew a Malayali sadhu. Now again, look at the verb here, that is knew, and here knew is the past tense of know. So which means this is in the past tense and it takes did. Again write did and add NT. So didn't, not Krishna, but he. Didn't he? Krishna knew a Malayali sadhu. Didn't he? Question mark. And look at the next one. He wakes up early in the morning. So now again, wakes up or wakes, that is the verb here, and this is does. Right, this is third person. Verb is in the present tense because yes is added to this, and third person. Right. So now it takes does. Does and then NT. Doesn't he. Doesn't he. Doesn't he. Look at the last sentence here. The goddess carried a sword in her hand. Sword in her hand. What do you mean by sword? Khadga. So the goddess carried a sword in her hand. Here the verb is carried. Carried, which means this is the past tense. Right. So now it takes did. Did and then write NT. Didn't Goddess. Again, what you have to write? She. So didn't she? Didn't she? So this is a way to frame question tags for the statements where there is no be form, have form or modal verbs. Right? This is very simple. So now let's move on to the next form with the hope that you understood this. So the next form is negative to positive. Negative to positive, which means if the statement is negative, then the tag must be positive. How do you identify whether the statement is positive or negative? With the words that I told you, there are a few words which make the sentence or the statement negative. So you have to remember all those negative words. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for you to make out whether the sentence is positive or negative. So what are those words? The first one is not. You're all familiar with this word, which is negative. And then we have nothing, and then none, never, little, few, neither, nor, scarcely, barely, rarely, seldom, nevertheless. So you have to remember all these words. These words make the statement or the sentence negative. So when you find these words in a sentence, then the tag must be positive. You have to remember that. Okay. So now, for example, I'll take the same example which I gave you in the previous class while discussing positive to negative question tags or statement. So now look at these three sentences. So now these are all negative sentences. You can easily identify that because there are not three nots in all the three sentences here. So now look at the first statement. She is not coming today. So now what you have to do, you can find helping verb there, and that helping verb is. Right. So we have helping verb here. So we have to take that same helping verb at the end of the statement and write that is. And here you should not add nt. Why? Because the tag must be positive here. Why? Because the statement is negative. So I hope you got my point. So now it becomes is she. This is very simple. You have to invert here. Okay, invert the subject and verb. So you have to write is she. Question mark. This is very simple. She is not coming today. Is she? So in that way. Look at the next one. It is not raining. It is not raining. Again, the same thing. Write is. Take the same is at the end of the statement and then write the pronoun. Is it? Is it? So it is not raining. Is it? Now look at the last statement. They are not working hard. So is there a helping verb? Yes. Be form verb, that is are. So write the same helping verb here are and then take the same personal pronoun which is there in the position of subject. So it has to be here. Are they? So this is how we frame or add question tag to negative sentences. So remember, if the statement or the sentence is negative, then the tag must be positive. So let me give you some more examples. Yes, look at these sentences here. Look at the first sentence. They will not be joining us for dinner tonight. So now analyze the sentence. Is there a helping verb or modal verb? Can you find? Yes, there is a modal verb. Right, so what you have to do? You have to take that will or modal verb at the end of a sentence, and you all know that the sentence is negative here, so which means the tag must be positive. So remember that. So we have taken will, and as I said, this is very simple. I mean, framing question tag to negative sentences is very easy because you have to invert the subject and verb here. That is your job. Okay, so now will they? Question mark. So they will not be joining us for dinner tonight, will they? In case there is no word not, just assume that this sentence is positive, then the tag becomes, just for example, they will be joining us for dinner tonight. So the tag should be will plus not. So what it becomes? Will plus not, that becomes won't. So in case the same sentence is given without the word not, which means if the sentence is positive, then it becomes won't they, which means that is a negative tag. But here this is the negative statement, and that is why the tag must be positive. So if it is will not, then it becomes will they. If it is only will, then it becomes won't they. This is how we frame negative and positive tags. Let's move on to the next statement. Look at the next one. She will not be attending the class tomorrow. The same thing again. What happens? The tag must be positive. Why? Because we have not here, which is a negative word. So it becomes will she. Will she. Now look at the next one. They are not from Ecuador. Ecuador is a state in US. So now they are not from Ecuador. So now are not. Again negative not, but we have to make it positive. The tag must be positive. So you have to write are they. Are they. Are they. Look at the next one. I am not flying to England. So now how do you frame or write tag here? I am not. So am I. Am I. For example, I am, just for example, if I write or if you get a question, I am a student. I am a student. So how do you frame question tag for this? You cannot write amn't. That is a wrong usage. If you are given I am in a sentence, which means positive sentence, then the tag becomes aren't I. Remember, this is again important for the exam. Aren't I. So in case you get I am, then the tag becomes aren't I. If it is I am not, then it becomes am I. Remember, I am not, tag must be am I. I am, then the tag must be aren't I. Yes. Now look at the last statement or the sentence here. They were not playing yesterday. So now we have again helping verb here, at the same time not, so the tag must be positive. So how do we write that? Were they. Were they. Were they. So shall we look at some more examples? Just stay with me. So now again have a look at these sentences. Look at the first one here. People are rarely worried about the coronavirus nowadays or nowadays. So now what should be the tag here? So first you have to make out whether the sentence or the statement is negative or positive. Just analyze it, just read that. Is this sentence negative or positive? So here we have a word rarely. I told you, I think you are not able to say this. So rarely or scarcely, barely, seldom, all these words are called semi-negatives, which means that those are negative words and that makes the sentence negative. So in that case, the tag must be positive. So now you cannot write aren't they. You cannot write aren't they. Why? Because rarely is a negative word and this sentence is negative, and that is why the tag must be positive. So again here you cannot write people. You have to write they. The pronoun or the personal pronoun for people, that is they. So now, do you find any helping verb there? Yes, are is a be form helping verb. Take that are at the end of the statement and write are. Don't add nt because this is a negative sentence, because we have the word rarely, which is a negative word. So that is why the tag must be positive and you have to write are they. The pronoun, personal pronoun for people is they, so it becomes are they. Now look at the next sentence. Read them. I seldom watch films. Now make out or just identify if the sentence is negative or positive. So we don't find any rarely or not. Is there any other word which is a semi-negative or negative word? Yes, that is seldom. So this word makes the sentence negative, which means the tag must be positive. Do you find any helping verb there? No. So the verb, the action verb is watch. What did I say? If it is watches, then it takes does. So I hope you remember, when there is no helping verb, we have to take right form of the do. So now we are doing the same thing now. So watch. Watch takes do. Watches does. Watched did. But here this is watch, so I'll write do. Do not add nt. Why? Because the seldom is negative. This sentence is negative and that is why tag must be positive. So now do I. Do I. Do I. Now look at the next one. He hasn't worried about anything. He has not worried about anything. So now nt again, that is not negative. So the tag must be positive. You have to write has he. Sorry. Has he. Has he. He hasn't worried about anything. Has he. So now look at the next one. He shouldn't have grumbled He shouldn't have grumbled. What do you mean by grumbled? Complaining. Gonagod. Right. So he shouldn't have grumbled. Again, shouldn't, should plus not. Together, shouldn't. So now the tag must be positive. This is a negative statement. So the tag must be positive. So it becomes should, shouldn't, should. The pronoun here, he, should he. Should he. Look at the next statement. They couldn't hear me. Again, couldn't, could not. Again, this sentence is negative, so the tag must be positive. So it becomes could they. Could they. This is very easy. Could they. If it is couldn't, you have to make it could they. They couldn't, could they. If it is they could, then the tag becomes couldn't they. So in that way. So now look at the next one. Neither of them would complain. So now again, is this the sentence negative or positive? Find out or analyze it. This is negative. Why? Because we have neither. Again, this is a semi-negative word, which means the sentence is negative. So the tag must be positive. So it becomes, do you have any or do you find any modal or helping verb here? Yes. Would is a modal verb. So you have to write the same modal verb here. Would. You cannot make it wouldn't. Why? Because the statement is already a negative statement. So now, which is the pronoun here? That is neither of them. Them is, that is plural. So the pronoun, that is personal pronoun for that is they. So it becomes would they. Would they. So this is how the sentences will be appear even in the examination, and this is how you need to frame question tags for all these sentences. So now let's look at the third form of question tag. So which is the third form of question tag? That is imperative sentences. As I said, this is very simple. Orders and commands. For example, open the door. That is the order or command. Turn on the TV or turn off the fan. Close the door. Don't talk. So these are all orders and commands. So when the orders or the commands, when we find imperative sentences which has the tone of order or command, then the question tag should be will you. Will you. For example, open the door. So assume that you will get the same question in the examination. So you have to write will you. This will be the question tag. Will you. Or close the door. Will you. Will you. Turn on the fan. That is switch on. Again, will you. Turn off the fan. Will you. So this is how you need to write a question tag for imperative sentence. That too, orders and commands must be followed by will you. So this is very simple. Now, again, in case imperative sentence that begins with the word let's, which means let us, let's let's go for a walk. So in case you find a sentence which begins with let's or letters, then the tag must be shall. You should not think anything else, but whenever the sentence or imperative sentence that begins with let's, then it must go with shall. And now the pronoun is us. That is plural again, we. So shall we? This should be the question tag. So let's go for a walk. Shall we? Let's do the work. Shall we? In this way. So this is again very simple. So this is all about 3 forms of question tag. So please remember all these forms. This is very simple to score again. Let's look at some more examples and then again we'll start the discussion. Look at these sentences here. Look at the first sentence. John hardly ever studies. What do you have to do? Look at the sentence. Find out if it is negative or positive sentence. Do you find any helping verb there? There are 3-4 points that you have to remember while analyzing a sentence. The first thing, make out whether it is negative or positive. Then identify if there are any or if there is any helping verb. So do you find any helping verb there? No. So when there is no helping verb, then we have to write do form. If there is no have form, if there is no be form, if there is no modal verbs, then we have to write the right form of do. So now look at this sentence. So this is negative sentence. Why? We have hardly. Hardly is a negative word, so the statement is negative here. So the tag must be positive. So now look at the verb there. There is no helping verb, which means we have to write the right form of do. For that we have to look at the verb. So which is the verb there? Studies. Yes, study or studies, yes, added to the action verb there, which means we have to take does. Don't add nt because the tag must be positive. Does John, which is the right pronoun for the proper noun John or the name John, that is he. Does he? Excuse me. Does he? Look at the next one. I shall come home. So now this is a positive sentence. There is no negative words here, right? And another thing, do you find any helping verb there? Yes, there is a modal verb, that is shall. So we have to take that shall, but here when we make shall into negative, then it becomes shan't. So we have to write shan't. So shall becomes shan't in the tag. Okay, shan't. When you add shall plus not, it becomes shan't. Shan't I? Shan't I? I shall come home. Shan't I? In that way. Next one. She used to go for a walk. Now, so is there any negative word in a given sentence? No, there is no negative word. And identify the verb there, of course, go, but when it comes used to, which means that indicates the past habit. Okay, used to indicates the past habit, and that is why it must take did. There is no other helping verb, so used to, that is a phrase and that suggests or indicates past tense. Used, this suggests past tense, remember, and that is why it must take did. So she used to go for a walk. So this is a positive sentence, which means the tag must be negative. So you have to add nt to did. So didn't, the pronoun she. Didn't she. Didn't she. Now look at the next one. Let's read. Which kind of sentence is it, or question tag? That is imperative. So whenever the sentence begins with letters, then it takes shall we. So let's read. Shall we? Shall we? Now look at the next one. I said that. So now, is this sentence a positive or negative? This is a positive sentence because we don't find any negative or semi-negative words, which means the tag must be negative. So now, I said that. Here the verb is said, which means you have to write did. And you have to add nt. Didn't, which is the personal pronoun here, that is I. So didn't I. Now, look at the next one. I am the fastest. Remember, whenever you're given I am, then the tag becomes, you know that this is a positive sentence, right? So the tag must be negative. So it becomes aren't I. Aren't I. So if I write I am not the fastest, then you can write am I. So here this is I am the fastest. Aren't I. Now, next one. Nobody answers me. This is a bit, tricky. So, in subject-verb agreement, we had learned that whenever we talk about or whenever we write nobody, somebody, someone, everything, then it takes singular verbs. Of course, it takes singular verbs, but in the tag, it takes plural verb as well as plural personal pronoun. So here, nobody answers me. As I said, don't look at answers here, only in this construction. So here, it must take plural form. So it becomes do they. Do they. Because here it is not considered as singular but plural. Nobody answers me. Yaru answer madodilla. So here it is considered as plural, and that is why it must go with plural verb. So don't write does just because here answers. It is answers. Okay. Only this applies only in the question tag. Please keep that in mind. So in subject verb agreement it has to take does only in the subject verb agreement, but here it has to take do. So nobody answers me, do they? Question mark. Now, nobody arrived. So here. And one more thing, why did we write don't here? Why did we write do? Because nobody is a negative word. So that is why this sentence is negative, and that is why the tag must be positive. The same applies even here. Nobody arrived. Now, it has to be did. Why? Because this is in the past tense. This is in the past tense, and that is why it has to take did. Did they. So the pronoun for nobody is they. Okay. Did they. Again, we should not write didn't or don't. Why? Because this is a negative word. So this has to be positive. Don't get confused. Please keep this in mind. So nobody answers me. This is a present tense. This is in the present, and this is a negative statement, and that is why we have to write do here. Okay. And this is in the past tense arrived, and that is why we have to write did. And the pronoun for nobody, everybody, that is same. They. Okay. So nobody answers me, do they? Nobody arrived, did they? Now, they rarely eat in restaurants. Look at this sentence. So is this a positive or negative sentence? Obviously this is a negative sentence. Why? Because we have rarely here, which is a negative word. So that is why the tag must be positive here. Now, they rarely eat in restaurants. So you have to identify the verb here. The verb is eat. What did I say? When it is eat, it takes do. When it is eats, it takes does. And for ate, it takes did. So now it is eat, which means it has to take do. And now You have the pronoun there, just write the same pronoun do. Do, they. So I hope you understood this. And now look at the last sentence. She never goes to school. Again, make out or identify if it is a negative or positive statement or sentence. So this is negative sentence. Why? Never is a negative word. So the tag must be positive. Before that, there is no helping verb, and that is why we have to take or add the right form of do. So now look at the verb there. Verb is goes, which means it is does. It becomes does she. Why can't we write doesn't? Because never is a negative word and the sentence is negative, so that is why we have to make the tag positive. So it becomes does she. So this is all about question tag. I have discussed all the important points that you require for the examination. So learn all these forms, 3 forms, that is positive to negative and then negative to positive and then imperative sentences. So this is, as I said, to change positive into negative and negative into positive, especially when you find helping verbs or modal verbs in a sentence. That is very easy. Let's look at that quickly. So can becomes can't. If can is given in the statement, then the tag becomes can't. If the can't is given in the statement, then the tag becomes can. So simple as that. Will, won't, will. Would, wouldn't, would. In this way it changes. Okay, remember. Shall, shan't, I am, could, couldn't, could. Must, mustn't, mu. Yes, and apostrophe T. So, mustn't. So, in this way, the tags changes. So, please remember all these things. As I said, this is very simple. In the same way, if you find did, then the tag becomes didn't, do, don't, does, doesn't, has, hasn't, have, haven't, had, hadn't, and then is, isn't, was, wasn't. So please remember all these. If you find these words in the statement, then these are the tags. So if these become your statement, then these becomes your tag. So simple as that. So if you don't find any helping verb or modal verb, then you have to write the right form of do by analyzing the verb there. So I think this is enough, and let's call it a day. And before that, this is the time to give you another new word, that is sagacious. Sagacious. Just find out the meaning of the word sagacious. I'll be waiting for your answer. Thank you.